next traffic load, getting a big central shot.
This is a series all about doing philosophy, finding yourself startled by the things that you had always taken for granted, and then fumbling around in the dark until you manage to feel the shape, the outline of the right question to ask, until finally you emerge from the cave into the open light with your answers. Philosophy, real philosophy, is a messy business. Sure, you can listen to philosophy explained clearly and crisply on your YouTube and what have you, but that's the finished product, polished, worn smooth by 1,000 grubby minds. This is the real thing. This is philosophy in the making. I'm Kit. I'm faculty at Azim Pramesh University. The guys in this film, they're my students. They planned this trip, what the subject was, who to talk to, where to go. This is their philosophical journey. And as they find answers about forgiveness, I hope you find them too. The answers, though, they lie at the end of the road, here in Pune. Our story begins 1,000 kilometers back down the path in a cafe in Bangalore.
Please, man.
What's your name?
Krishna. My name is Krishna. I study physics. I'm from Chennai. My prisoner number is BSP 17018.
What's your name?
I'm Siddharth. I'm studying humanities. My admission number is BAH 17032.
And what on earth are you doing here?
We're forgiving. Amen.
Huh?
We're forgiving. Amen.
This is not helpful. This is not helpful. Why is there an empty chair? Who are you?
I'm Yogesh. Hello.
So direct intent is specifically towards you. You are the intention of that.
So we wondered if forgiveness is like the act of getting over resentments and like inquiring into why do we forgive, things about who deserves forgiveness. These are like the broader questions that we hope to tackle with in the road trip.
Things are getting intense, using up my sixth sense. Thought you had us figured, I can't use me at your expense. They be on that pretense, we be on some defense. Left you in the past tense, you could keep your 2 cents. I don't wanna be another target on a headless. All my people running around the city like some misfits. So I'm steady praying for my brothers like a wish list. Can I trust a soul? They gon' turn on you the quickest. Damn, there's so much going on in this world we call our home. They been looting and protesting, trying to get it for our home. Ain't nobody got us like we got us. Streets is in a frenzy, you see the riots. Stand up for a cause, or you die for one of yours. Ain't no universal laws, they just wanna sabotage. Rolling with my entourage, and they tell us be safe. But they got our hands behind us while we down up on our face. It don't make no sense, no. It felt like a death, no.
So slowly researchers have shown that if you don't forgive, there is a resentment which builds up. It's not spiritual or any such thing. Psychologically, there is a resentment which builds up. And there is a tendency for a person to become lonely or alone. We help the people get over that incident, not by revisiting. Previously, psychotherapy and other things, or what is called as forgiveness therapy, used to take people back and go through that incident and find what else could you have done. Now, they could have done so many things which they didn't do. So now we are learning that you need to build a person up, so in a situation like that arises, you know what you are going through. So this is my viewpoint of forgiveness out of therapies, this, that and all that. And I found that this works better than anything. So many times, people when they come with a problem, it appears to the others or they go to another psychiatrist or talk to colleagues. They say, you didn't talk about that incident at all. No. You say, just forget it and reorganize the life and say, get along with life. Now that appears as though it is not okay. But after some time you find that they have got over the resentment, which means they have forgiven. They have forgiven themselves first. You may not deserve at all. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
You should always forgive no matter what.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. Now, why this has come up is mainly forgiveness is a issue of justice. What is right, what is wrong.
Right.
Yeah, and what is wrong has happened. So this, you are going after rectifying that wrong is a longer story and it may not happen. Well, rectifying yourself will happen.
How do I understand one forgiving themselves? Is it like, is it the same as forgiving a separate person, or how does this process?
Correct. This needs a little bit of objectivity. Objectivity in the sense, see, whatever forgiveness incidents have happened in the past. When I was not mature enough or caught in a situation where I could not get out. So, because of that it happened. So now we are slightly older, maybe a day older, maybe a month older, maybe a year or more older. So you can look back and say, okay, at that time I was naive. I didn't. So you can forgive yourself. Now I am wiser and I can change the situation if needed. I may not be able to go back and correct that. That's okay.
And at what point do you think someone is forgiven? Is it when they stop wanting to get revenge? Is it when they stop feeling bad about it? Is it when they stop thinking about what happened? At what point is it over and done with?
When they have gone on with life, gone ahead in life, without bothering about what happened. I work with marginalized communities. One thing is trying to get them help and this and that, and I work a lot with NGOs. But that is temporary. It's not, they really feel that inside. So to get over that feeling, they have to get into some activity or something which pushes them ahead, pushes them forward in life. Then this is forgotten. Now the other side of it, I have seen both sides of the coin, where the person who has caused the incident, I have met those people also, they suffer from more resentment in this thing because they lose a relationship. It's not even an abusive relationship. Like this ragging and other senior students rag the juniors and all that. They actually suffer more. So some times I have got the other person also, and then they realize they should not have done all that. They have said sorry because they felt really sorry for that.
Who should see this? Where are we going? This one? Please. Work to do, we're late.
So forgiving, the way he puts it is forgiving for yourself so that you get away from that incident.
There was troubled me immediately after when I walked out of the place. Because it's not just to myself. If I allow myself to get hurt and then simply let it pass, I should be doing something about the fact that I got hurt. I should be working on letting that person know that I got hurt and ensuring that this kind of hurt doesn't happen again to anyone.
It's very individualistic. Like when you think about it, whatever has happened. And I'm quoting Dr. Tekurikar. So you just need to move on from it to a happy life, to something that would be positive for you. It sounds good, but I'm skeptical of it.
We were talking about whether it was possible to do this after having forgiven someone.
I was wondering if situations are such that you are not able to leave that behind and move on. What if leaving it behind and moving on is not the best thing?
He thought of forgiveness entirely in terms of self-contained process. He thought of it as a self-contained process. He didn't see it as something social.
ಸರಿ, ಹಂಗಾಗಿತ್ತು. ಬೇರೆಯವರು ಬಂದು ಟೆನ್ಷನ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟು ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಬಿಡೋದ ಅಥವಾ ನೀವು ಒಂಚೂರು ಕಿರಿಕ್ ಮಾಡೋದ?
ಯು ಶುಡ್ ಟಾಕ್ ಅಬೌಟ್ ದಟ್. ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಒಂದು 5 ನಿಮಿಷಕ್ಕೆ ಮಾತಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಇಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಸಾಲ್ವ್. ಅಷ್ಟೇ.
ಸಾಲ್ವ್ ಮಾಡೋದಂದ್ರೆ
ಸಾಲ್ವ್ ಮಾಡೋ ಅಂದರೆ ಇವಾಗ ಏನು ನಿನ್ನ ಮೈಂಡು ನನ್ನ ಮೈಂಡು ಒಂದು ಅಂಡರ್ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡಿಂಗ್ ಇರೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಯು ಆರ್ ಥಿಂಕಿಂಗ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಡಿಫ್ರೆಂಟ್ ವೇ. ನಾನು ಒಂಥರ ಬೇರೆ ಥರ ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೆ. ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಜನಕ್ಕೆ ತಾಳ್ಮೆ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಯಾವ ಪೇಷನ್ಸ್ ಟು ಲಿಸನ್. ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಜನಕ್ಕೆ ಅದು ಇರೋದಿಲ್ಲ.
ಅಂದರೆ ಆ ಟೈಮಲ್ಲಿ ಫಾರ್ಗಿವ್ನೆಸ್ ಇರ್ತದೆ.
ಒಂದು ಅವ್ರು ಬಿಟ್ಕೊಡ್ಬೇಕು, ಇಲ್ಲಾಂದರೆ ನಾವು ಬಿಟ್ಕೊಡ್ಬೇಕು. ದೇ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಫರ್ಗಿವ್ ದೆಮ್, ಅದರ್ವೈಸ್ ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಗಿವ್ ಅಪ್. ನಾವು ಬಿಟ್ಕೊಡಿಲ್ಲ, ಅವರು ಬಿಟ್ಕೊಟ್ಟಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದರೆ ನಮಗೆ ಒಂದು ಈ ಥರ ಒಂದು ಮಾಡಬೇಡಿ, ಈ ಥರ ಒಂದು ಮಾಡೋದ್ರಿಂದ ತುಂಬ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು. ಹೇಳಿದ ಮೇಲೆ ಅವರು ಅದನ್ನ ಮಾಡೋದನ್ನ ಸ್ಟಾಪ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಇಲ್ಲಾಂದರೆ ಏನೋ ಒಂದು ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಸೊ ಆವಾಗ ಇಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಲೈಕ್ ಸ್ಯಾಟಿಸ್ಫ್ಯಾಕ್ಷನ್, ಓಕೆ ಅಂತ. ಸೊ ಅವರು ಮಾಡಲಿಲ್ಲ, ನಾವು ಮಾಡಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದರೆ ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಕೀಪ್ ಮೂವಿಂಗ್. ಅದನ್ನು ಹಂಗೆ ಮುಂದೆ ತಗೊಂಡು ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ಪ್ರೊಟೆಸ್ಟ್ ಅಂದರೆ ದೊಡ್ಡ ಪ್ರೊಟೆಸ್ಟ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಆ ಥರ. ಚಿಕ್ಕದಂದರೆ ಇದು ಇವಾಗ ನಮ್ಮ ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಜಗಳಾಡೋದು, ಅಣ್ಣ ತಂದ್ರ ಜೊತೆ ಅಂಡರ್ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡಿಂಗ್ ಇರೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಈ ಥರ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ಗಳೆಲ್ಲ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತವೆ. ಸೊ ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಬಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ದೊಡ್ಡವರು ಫಸ್ಟು ಫರ್ಗಿವ್ ಕೊಡಬೇಕು. ಚಿಕ್ಕವ್ರು ಏನೇ ಜಗಳ ಆಡಿದ್ರು ದೊಡ್ಡವ್ರಿಗೆ ಯಾವಾಗಲೂ ಫರ್ಗಿವ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಬಿಡೋ, ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಒಂದು ದೊಡ್ಡ ವಿಷಯ ಇದಿಲ್ಲ, ಇನ್ನು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ನೀನು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೀರಿಯೆನ್ಸ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ನಿಂಗೆ ಸರೋಗುತ್ತೆ ಆ ಥರ ಒಂದು ಏನು ಎನ್ಕರೇಜ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಅದು ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ದೇ ವಿಲ್ ಚೇಂಜ್ ದೆಮ್ಸೆಲ್ಫ್ ಅಷ್ಟೇ. ಸೊ ಇದನ್ನೇ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ಗಳಾಗೋದು. ಸೊ ಫರ್ಗಿವ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಅವರೇ ಬಿಟ್ಕೊಡ್ಬೇಕು ನಮಗೆ. ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ಇದು ದೊಡ್ಡ ಸಮಸ್ಯೆ, ಚಿಕ್ಕ ಸಮಸ್ಯೆ ಅಲ್ಲ. ದೊಡ್ಡ ಸಮಸ್ಯೆಯಿಂದ ನಾವು ಅವರೇ ನಮಗೆ ಒಂದು ಗೌರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಅಂತ ಏನಿದೆ ನಾವು ನಡೆಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವೋ, ನಾವೇನು ಒಂದು ಓಟ್ ಹಾಕಿ ಅದರಿಂದನೇ ಅವ್ರು ಗೌರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ನಡೆಸೋದು. ಸೊ ಅದರಿಂದ ಅವರೇ ನಮಗೆ ಒಂದು ಆಧಾರವಾಗಿ ಕೊಡಬೇಕು. ಸೊ ಅದೇ ಒಂದು ಕೊಟ್ಟು ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ನಾವು ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಏನದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನಾವು ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ, ನಾವು ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಫರ್ಗಿವ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟರೆ ವಿ ಆರ್ ಫ್ರೀ. ಯಾ
What Rajana was saying was, like, what I got out of it was at least that you need to, like, if it's a family matter, then you guys need to, like, talk about it and get it resolved. But if it is somewhere outside the realm of family or close people, I think that you need to, like, give up on the person.
Raja also did not say much about the justice aspect of it. He just said, screw it, get on with your life. That's good.
Personal forgiveness and political forgiveness is almost the same things, which we didn't really get clear on that during the interview, but it's something I would like to see more, because personal forgiveness is something I can understand. You're forgiving another person, you're letting go of your anger, things like that. These are things that come from within. There's another person involved. Whereas for something like institutions, such as the government or something a lot larger than that, I'm really not sure how forgiveness would be, because where are your emotions being directed at? How did an entire institution wrong to you? So I really don't know if forgiveness could be the same thing. with that, and that's something I'd like to investigate a lot further.
Kit said that earlier today after we left from Raja's place. He said forgiveness is intrinsically valuable, and I don't know if that's true or not.
Forgiveness should be should be there in a very vast extent in the society. When, especially when one toiling person commits the crime against another toiling person, but at the same time, if a toiling person commits the crime against an oppressor, say the policeman enters the library and try to beat the students, as it happened, say 2 days back. If when such atrocities are being committed, and if the students take stones and pelt, say them against the police, then say it's a crime forced down onto the students. Their wealth has come from the thieving of the oppressed people's property. But that is legal, moral. Okay. But your theft, the oppressed people's theft of things from the oppressors, say households, that is a big crime. It is against morality.
By forgiving the oppressor, am I not saying that the oppressor now has some moral duty to repay me or to... so in that way, it is possible to forgive oppressors?
Well, I told you, the aim or objective of punishment is to change persons.
In this way also we are...
That's what I'm saying, is to change persons. If forgiveness, say, results in the same change of person, change in the behavior of person, then forgiveness is having a very highly positive role.
When I don't forgive someone, I'm likely to feel a lot of anger and a lot of hate. And such feelings usually are not, they're not desirable feelings, they're negative feelings. So, in those cases, do you think forgiveness is a way of getting rid of those feelings?
Well, anger, say, is a positive thing, not a negative thing always. Say, as I was giving this example, let us say a garment worker, a woman being sexually exploited by the supervisor or the manager. And say, if you don't have that anger against such misuse, that is immoral. Okay. When you direct your anger in proper direction, in proper proportion, then it means that you will be forgiving all others.
Yeah.
And it will make you more human.
Yeah.
I think we talked a lot about a lot of things.
Lot to say here. Whole lot to say.
When he started talking, he said that like there are two approaches to things. Like there's like common people, and the other is like obviously the privileged class.
I'm not sure if I really like that view. He made a very interesting case that to show how it is already there in society, what sort of thieving is morally permissible and what isn't. And while that is true, I would think, I would also say that that's something we ought to change rather than reason for basing our forgiveness on it, because I think forgiveness has a certain moral value. There is something really normative about it, which I don't know if he encapsulated in his view.
I think it is that sentiment that Nagaraj uncle was attacking. When a rich and powerful person decides to commit a crime, they are doing it with a feeling that because of their power, they will get away with it. It's quite sad that the picture that we see outside is quite similar to this. But I would still go with the view that everybody should be equal under law.
He spoke about how you could direct your anger, how anger could be a positive emotion. Yeah, I guess that view makes sense if you look at emotions very instrumentally. At least the way I look at emotions, they're something that are there within us and they're not there just for something else. And when you think of it a little more like that, anger as a positive thing being used to fight back, yes, that's one way of using anger, but that's not all anger is for. I think at the same time when you're angry, you lose a lot.
This is the morning after the night before. Something very instrumental about the doctor's view, though. The idea being that when I forgive for myself, and that's the reason for forgiving. But it strikes me that forgiving someone is giving them something. Right? Forgiving is morally praiseworthy. If the doctor was right, then forgiving would be a selfish act primarily, maybe an act of self-care, but a selfish act. But it strikes me forgiving is not. Forgiving is something which isn't purely selfish. It's to help someone else. There's something altruistic about it.
There might be something that is good about forgiving to the other person, but that doesn't mean that. I think he's saying the reason you should forgive. The value of forgiving is that it helps your own thing, but doesn't mean there are no other values.
So it seems like all these questions come down to what forgiveness is. And your view of what forgiveness is changes your answer to all these questions about gift or whether it's instrumental or what's instrumental for. I'm still rather swayed by this idea that gift is it's just like debt forgiveness. It's got nothing to do with emotions.
You're still persuaded by that idea?
Yeah. You?
No.
Why not?
It seems to that, like, if you say you love a person and you say that loving someone is having them above you, then it would be obvious that you would cater to their emotions, and like then forgiving becomes.
You think emotions have to necessarily involved in forgiveness?
Yeah.
And that's not just a psychological fact; that's a conceptual fact.
Wait. What is the conception?
It is part of the very concept of forgiveness that the emotions are involved. If I say I forgive you for my debt, I don't have to feel it. Maybe the saying of it is enough to make it true.
Declarative, but for you to actually do that, you need to feel something.
Maybe that's a psychological fact. I don't know. I'm not sure.
I don't think it is. No. No matter how angry I am with a group member, for example, while I'm doing a project, I still have to work with it. So my emotional state has nothing to do with it.
So is that forgiveness? Mm-hmm. Is that forgiveness or is that putting up with that?
I still think it's forgiveness. Because my debt has been paid, I don't hold anything against them. I'll have to trust them, but I could still be very bitter about what they did to me.
I think that's forgiveness because you're being forced to make the choice of trusting them.
If we take the person, the wrongdoer into account, and the person would ideally want the resentment to be gone, like from your mind, and right, and that is when they decide, okay, you've actually forgiven me. Because if I say in the depth version that okay, I forgive you, but the emotions are still there, and I show those emotions, then it wouldn't be taken by the person who is the wrongdoer, saying that they might just say that you haven't actually forgiven me just that.
Yeah. My intuition differ there. What are your guys' intuitions? So, if your guy says, "I forgive you," but is it appropriate for me to say, "No, you don't"?
Intuition says yes.
Yes. No, I'm so interested. So you guys both think, yeah, that's appropriate. We think no. Notice on the doctor's view, on the emotional view, it could be an appropriate thing to say, but on the declarative view, it couldn't. Right? Because in the declarative view, it's like I promise. You say Yogesh says to me, I promise to do this. No, you don't. What? You just did it. You just heard it, right? But on the emotional view, if whether the utterance "I forgive you" means something underneath, means something in here, then it could be false.
Emotional view is also a process. It's not a fixed thing where you forgive a one-off thing. Yeah, it was just forgive and then it's forgiven for life. No, I'm not okay with that view of forgiveness. Are any of us okay with that?
Yeah.
What's which view? The declarative view.
I'm tempted by it.
Yeah.
What's the
I'm not. I'm put off by it.
What's the intuition you got?
It will bring a lot of strain on the person who's already gone through trauma.
Why?
If somebody does something bad, then the natural reaction that we have towards that is talking to the person, blaming the person, something like that comes about. And keeping all of that in and saying, okay, I forgive you, which means as a promise, and which would then entail that you don't say, behave in that way to that person again. And all of the other view, the emotional view, where you take it slowly as a process, both of you go through it together, something like this would be more feasible.
I see it the other way around. I see that the declarative view makes the burden on the victim lighter because they don't have to change their emotions.
But they have to change their actions.
They have to make an action, right? And after they make that action, the rest of their actions should be different.
Yeah.
That's true.
So if there was a justice system, is forgiveness a way of avoiding the justice system for the ruling class?
Alright, so since that view is at the heart of this line, let's think about that view, that when you forgive, punishment is then inappropriate.
Yeah.
Notice that both on the emotional view and on the declarative view, that issue isn't settled yet.
Yeah.
So, what do we think? Who thinks it's true that once you've forgiven, punishment is no longer appropriate?
Well, I disagree.
You think punishment could be appropriate?
Not appropriate.
It's not appropriate. If you give it
how are you putting punishment? Something that should be should bring a change of behavior as
what says
then yes, if it's something else where you're the intention is to hurt in that way of looking at punishment, then
so retributive justice is done once you're forgiven, but not necessarily reformative justice.
I agree with that.
Alright, okay, so let's wrap up by thinking about what we want to find out, what each of you want to find out next.
So what's the value of forgiveness? Is there value?
Good.
I feel like we've gotten here after. I feel like we started off thinking, yes, there's definitely value in forgiveness. Kind of seems to be thrown into doubt now.
Why don't we go and look at Martha Nussbaum's work then?
You want to look more into the emotional account.
Cool. Why do you look at that paper I was reading last night? That really nice one. Yeah.
Forgiveness has been instrumental so far. Sounds people can conceptualize it as something intrinsic.
So they give an intrinsic value in it.
And also forgiveness as a process. I want that to be more concise.
Maybe you both feel the same page, but then. Okay, sweet, good work, Chris. Let's get on the road.
Guys are off to a good start in this first day and a half. They got down to the basic questions, the stuff that no one notices. Okay, so you think that forgiveness is something that helps you move on, or you think that forgiveness is something that you should do more to the working class. But what is forgiveness anyway? I don't often bother to try to define philosophy, it's better to just try it for yourself. But if you want a definition, here's one from an old philosopher. Philosophy is the presupposition of the sciences. He meant that everyone thinks in a mental box, in a framework, and usually we don't bother to stop and question the box itself, but every once in a while it's worth slowing down and asking about the box itself. Is forgiveness about how you feel or what you do? Is forgiveness valuable because of what it can give, or it's just valuable because? And is it the same to forgive a person as to forgive a country or a group? Now we're asking good philosophical questions. Next week, we hit the road. A fourth philosopher joins the adventure, we delve into the tricky topic of political forgiveness, and we learn how not to listen. The journey's only just begun. I hope you join us for the rest of it.